Hey there, welcome back to Melanie Loves Death Metal. Today we are doing another review of another 20 buck spin label title. That's just how it's going to be here. So first we had Holder that I did. Then we had Slime Lord that I did over on Heavy Metallurgy. Then we did Siverus last week. Now we've got Witch Vomit today. Soon will be Terminal Nation. Atreyu Bilis. I fucking still don't know how to say your band name, but I love you guys. I am missing one. I'm blanking right now. But anyway, 20 bucks spin is just on a warpath for my own personal taste of music. Again, not everybody likes everything that everybody releases, but I'm going to talk about Witch Vomit today. Witch Vomit has been hailed probably one of my favorite modern death metal bands ever since their last release, Buried Deep in a Bottomless Grave, back in 2019. Admittedly, thought the band name was fucking stupid, gonna be honest with you, and I stayed away from them for a while for that reason, but being immersed into the 20 buck spin label environment at the time, to mold was pretty big back then. I think 2019 was that. That wasn't Manor, was it? I can't remember. I'm not good with dates. But they were very much a nice segue into the modern death metal scene for me, because I really wasn't into it until pandemic 2018, 2019 was when I really felt like I started to got back into it and was being more open-minded in trying to find new music and new bands. So Witch Vomit has a new album out now, but before we get to that, like I said, the band is on 20 bucks spin. This is their third full-length album. Their first full-length album, A Scream from the Tomb Below, was out on Headsplit Records, and they were a Headsplit band, which I feel like Headsplit is just most notably known for finding these amazing bands that move on and they find success. Like Headsplit is ultimately a pathway for so much phenomenal music. So I immediately didn't know who they were until I heard Buried Deep in the Bottomless Grave on 20 bucks spin, which came out in 2019. That's their second full length. 3 years ago, they released this EP, Abhorrent Rapture. Admittedly, wasn't the biggest fan when this first came out. I definitely showed off the vinyl when I first got it on here. But since then, I've listened to this a lot, and this is probably some of my favorite music they've ever released. I am a massive fan of this EP. So I was really pumped for this new album now, Funeral Sanctum, that just came out last Friday, April, whatever. What day was it? April 5th. And let's talk about it. So before I get into the music, I'll show off the tape. I got the tape. As everybody knows, I'm not buying records right now, but I am still pre-ordering tapes. So this has been on pre-order for a while. I got this a little bit late, which I was kind of sad about, but that's okay. I get it. I was later into the order queue, so I knew that I was going to be a little bit of a delay before I got it, but it's totally fine. 20 bucks spin does an amazing job of getting stuff out. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Sometimes you get it 2 weeks before release. It just depends on what's going on over there. They've got a lot of shit going on. So artwork is done by Matt Stikker. Link in the description. Amazing artist. He's done past artwork for several bands. Outer Heaven is most notably the one that I'm thinking off the top of my head right now, but it's been several other things. So very much a Necrolord style of album art here, which you would not expect with the Witch Vomit record, I guess you could say. The blue castle-like just hellscape is awesome. I'm a huge fan of the artwork, so obviously. And then here's the band over here. They are from Portland, Oregon, U.S. death metal act. Lyrics on the other side. And then this nice blue tape to complement the album artwork. Tape sounds phenomenal. 20 bucks spin. Always presses nice tapes. Don't have any issues. So, all right, there you go. There's your product showcase there. The vinyl records have several different color variants as always, and they look simply phenomenal. To be honest with you, I cannot wait until I start collecting records again, because man, do I want this on vinyl. But okay, so let's get into this. This album is not what I expected it was going to be. I definitely got a couple surprises in on this. I had the promo for a while now, and I've taken my time with this, like I did with the Siverus album, and like I've done with Brodequin. I just really want to observe, like really just like absolve. Is that the word I'm trying to think of? I don't know. Like a sponge. I want to just really like suck it all in and get my thought process thoroughly and have several listens and not just go off the cuff and write and do a review after one listen, which a lot of reviewers do, and hey, that's their thing. But for me personally, I did not want to do that. So this is a 10-track, 30-minute long album. I was shocked to see that it was only 30 minutes because it definitely feels a little bit longer, and I think that's just because they're still witch vomit. Okay, so here's the thing. They haven't strayed away from what makes them witch vomit and what their sound has been for their last couple of albums and then their EP. But they definitely are incorporating more styles here. There's definitely doomier elements into this album, and then there's also even more of a blackened death feel to it. A lot of people have been associating dissection with this, and I definitely get that, and I feel that. Not as much, like, don't just assume you're going to turn this on, it's going to sound like a dissection album. Not at all, but there's definitely some influential, like, guitar work that makes you feel like a dissection riff is about to break out. And that's not what you got with the last couple albums. The last couple albums were pretty standard, old school death metal, filthy sounding, dark sounding. I mean, it's Witch Vomit. Like, that's just the name of the band. But this album, they definitely wanted to progress and try and get away from just that copy-paste old school death metal revival that they are involved with, and incorporate a little bit more styles to this. First listen, I didn't think much of the album, to be honest with you. It was very much just like it's an album. It's Witch Vomit, you know. It's got good songs. Some of it still sounds the same from past release. Some of it, yeah, I can definitely hear what they're doing with this, and didn't really like wow me at first. And I think a big reason that had to do with that is because I am so heavily immersed into brutal death metal right now, like really heavy. It's like the two things that I am listening to a lot right now is brutal death metal and then super old school like death metal, like raw sounding, rougher sounding mixes, just evil and sinister. Some of the stuff I showed off yesterday in my video, that type of music. So when I'm into that, it's hard to sometimes segue into some other styles of death metal, like cavernous death metal doesn't really do much for me when I'm in this kind of a mood. Death doom definitely is a mood type of death metal music for me. However, that has been hitting a little bit more right now. Siverus definitely has a lot to do with that, and Slime Lord as well. That was that the other album I was trying to think of earlier? I can't remember. Anyway, I mean, like, I'm listening to brutal death metal. Like, I'm pulling out shit that I haven't listened to in a really long time. Brodequin is really a big reason for that. And then at the height of, like, the end of last year, I was so into it. Like, just really diving into Comatose releases. And now it's, like, New Standard Elite and, like, all these things. And I still have several other things I want to talk about on this channel. But, like, right now, like, that's just what my mood has been in. So when I first listened to this album, probably like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago now, I'm trying to think of when I got the promo. It was several weeks before the actual release. I wasn't feeling it, and I was kind of sad because, like I said, I really love this band, and I've been a huge fan of their past releases, and it definitely frequent listens up until lately. I haven't, maybe this one is what I've spun the most lately. I have not listened to their first two albums in a while. So what happened was the last week, because I knew it was coming out, and I tend to really want to be like involved with the hype and be excited and talk about it with my friends and the groups of chats that I'm in and stuff like that, and I just could not get into it. Could not. I was like, yeah, Witch Vomit's out. Yay. Awesome. But at the same time, not really providing much to the conversation because it wasn't really doing much for me. But then the last couple of days, on Friday it came out. I listened to it all day Friday. I listened to it probably 3 or 4 times in the car. I was in the car for like 5 hours on Friday. I think I spent like I played at least twice in a row. And then Saturday and Sunday I was traveling, or I was gone all weekend. My son was competing on the weekend, so I didn't have any time to listen to music. But then yesterday, something kind of clicked with me a little bit more, and I think that maybe my ears needed a little bit of a rest of the pingy snares and the gurgling vocals and the body dismemberments. And I listened to it again, and yeah, it's a really good album. I definitely really like what they're doing now. It sounds like, and I'm a little bit curious, to be honest with you, like how much more of this black metal element are they going to start adding into their music? Are they going to make a full swing into black and death metal? Or are they going to make a full swing into similar to kind of like what Worm is doing, where there's just blackened elements into it, but still very much as a death metal band? Because there's definitely those things in this. Especially, you really hear it in the second song, Endless Fall. The first song is just instrumental. So the second song, Endless Fall, you really do start to hear that. And then Blood of Abomination, like there's these guitar riffs like that are just a little bit more cleaner picking style, not as chug dissonant like you would expect from a Witch Vomit. That really makes you feel like, okay, they're starting to maybe incorporate some more of that black metal sound at this, which I'm not opposed to whatsoever. It's not like full blown black metal or Black and Death. It's not like full blown necrophobic or anything like that. But you can definitely tell that they're trying to not just be the stereotypical old school death metal revival band. Like they're trying to, get more of an identity here and do things more with their music. The instrumental tracks, sometimes I just am not a huge fan of instrumental tracks on albums unless they really, really go well. Like the first track, I don't mind when people do like intro tracks and stuff like that. I think that really sets the tone for this album. And sometimes instrumental, like intro tracks, are just like a clip or somebody talking or something like that. You're kind of just like, oh, okay. Like you kind of just expect that with death metal albums, especially if it's like horror themed or gore grind or something. For this, like, I think it set the mode in the mood of what you're expecting, and that is just dark, pummeling death metal, like really dark. I think the artwork just speaks volumes for what you're getting with this. So that instrumental intro track, like you don't really think much about them in regards to albums a lot of the times, like especially when I do interviews. When I do reviews, I tend to just not really make much of a comment about them unless they're annoying as fuck. But this one really got to me. Like after I listened to it yesterday, I was like okay, I like what they're doing here. I don't know. And then they have another one towards the end of the album. It is the ninth one, Abject Silence, which is like an interlude. And again, like there's just something dark and ominous and just really almost sinister and evil that they are incorporating here. Like that definitely, like that suffocating, gross death metal feel has always really been there in their past releases. I mean, again, the band's name is Witch Vomit. Their last album was called Buried Deep in a Bottomless Grave, and the album artwork, like you're just expecting like disgustingness, okay? But for this one, there's a little bit more sophistication. There's a little bit more I don't want to say like uptightness, or definitely not prog, but you can tell that they don't want to just be, like I said, that copy paste death metal band anymore. Like they want to do something that's a little bit more, not like groundbreaking, because there's nothing really groundbreaking on this album, but really different than what they've done in the past. Not so different, not like these guys where they just changed so much with their last album that people just got pissed. Like, don't think that. But they definitely got a little bit more creative within their style of writing. That's the best way of saying it. They added more creativity to what they were doing for this music. So my favorite tracks definitely are Endless Fall. I think that's a phenomenal starter of the album. Decaying Angelic Flesh is another one. And like, these songs aren't very long. But Black Wings of Desolation is probably my favorite track on the album. That is like a deep cut in the album that is halfway through. I don't remember what the single was that they released on Bandcamp, so I don't remember if that was it. Maybe that was it, but that was the one that I tend to, when I got to that song, I was like, yeah, I really like this song. Just overall, it's a very good album. Is it their best? It's hard because Buried Deep in Bottomless Grave is such a great album. It's such a like comfort album for me. I'm so used to listening to it. I know it so well. I've listened to it so many times. And a lot of times that takes priority over newer stuff, and it takes me a little while for me to appreciate newer albums when I'm so connected to an album and discography. So I think it's going to take a little bit more time for me to say that this is their best work so far. I think in terms of creative style of writing this music, the composition, what they're doing with the production, what they're doing, not just, like, again, they're not recreating the wheel here. They're not reinventing a new style of music. It's good, and I think it is their best stuff in terms of that regard. But for me personally, I don't know. I'm not there yet. It's not a perfect album by any means. There's definitely some repetition here. But, I mean, it's death metal. I think you pretty much can kind of expect that. If you want, like, really groundbreaking, crazy music that's just totally different, then I don't know what to tell you here. Yeah. The lyrics read very much like a Dissection album. I am not going to lie. Especially the first two albums. Not so much that third album that we shall not talk about. But really reminds me a lot. I think just the album artwork just really does that for me. And again, don't turn this on and think you're going to be hearing like straight up melodic black metal, melodic death metal. Like, no. But there is definitely a little bit more melodicism into this album that has not been in their past albums. I think that's what I really enjoy about this. Again, guitar riffs. That's a big thing. The chugs and the gurgs are great, but when you want a little bit more intricacies and sophistication, it really hits. And this one, that did to me finally, after I finally got into it. So, it's a great album. I really love this band. I do hope I can see them live someday, although live shows are not exactly a thing that I go to very often anymore. I'm very selective on what concerts I go to. But I don't know if they really done like a full scale US tour, because it seems like they just do mostly shows out on the West Coast. So hopefully I will. I just want to add, the members of this band are also in Torture Rack. So Torture Rack is another phenomenal death metal band who is also released on 20 Bucks Spin, but they also put out stuff on Headsplit and stuff like that in the past. So yeah, great musicians in the underground. I love that band. So if you were not familiar with that, check out Torture Rack. They have 2 of the members in that band. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had. Interesting to know. I've watched a couple of other YouTuber reviews, like the Metal Meltdown and then Thralls of Metal is like the 2 main like YouTube reviewers that I listen to and watch. And a lot of the stuff they had to say was very similar to mine. It's a great album. There's a lot of, there's the times where it's like a melodic guitar riff and then blast beats incorporated, which goes well. Like, they've added that melodicism to this album that's really works really well. And I'm glad that it's not just a copy-paste old school death metal album. And it may sound like that from the beginning of first impression, because that's definitely what I felt when I heard it. But when you really take the time and listen to what's going on, like, you hear it. You know. Like, this band had a creative float. I mean, and there was a pretty big lull between this album and the other one. Like, there was like, 4, almost 5 years in between. So they definitely took their time and wrote this, and you can tell that they didn't just whip it together in like a 2-hour session. Some people said definitely some hints of Blood Incantation, 100%. More of the Starspawn Blood Incantation. Definitely Hidden History has like that pretentiousness to it that people tend to not like, so don't assume that that's what Witch Vomit's doing here. But there's definitely, if you're a fan of Blood Incantation, you'll really enjoy this album. And if you're a fan of bands that incorporate a little bit more subtle sounds of black metal in there, you'll enjoy this album. And I think you'll enjoy the other albums too. Like, definitely had seen that coming, especially with this one. Although this album is phenomenal. I think Matt also did the artwork for this too as well. So, yep. I've rambled now for 19 minutes. That's much longer than I expected to do for this video. when I got going, I got going. So interested to know what you guys think about this album. 20 Buck Spin is on a tear, man. They've released so much good stuff this year already, and they're not done. We are in April, and I'm sure they've got several other things coming. But this is definitely one of the best releases they've come out with this year. Slime Lord, Siverus, Holder. And I've heard some of the other ones that are coming because I've got the promos, so damn, they're just unstoppable this year. Just if there was some sort of like death metal awards, which are there death metal awards? Does Metal Injection or somebody do that? I don't know, whatever. They definitely would get the top spot for label of the year, 100%, in my opinion. But whatever. Anyway, that's all I have. Let me know in the comments what you think about the new album. Let me know if you've never heard this band before. Definitely check them out. Links are always in the description of where you can listen to this. And 20 Buck Spin is just a simple website. You can just type in 20 Buck Spin and you'll find it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.